Is it very possible that you are working against your own energy? Are you fighting against your own energy? Is it possible that maybe what you actually need to know is your type? One of the things that has secretly been changing the game for me in terms of knowing myself better, understanding my routines, understanding my personality, and most importantly, increasing my productivity has been knowing my energy rhythms. Now, when it comes to knowing your energy rhythms, what if knowing your chronotype, your empath type, your human design, and balancing masculine and feminine energy is the secret that you've been missing to why you keep experiencing burnout, overwhelm, exhaustion, never feeling like you can show up for yourself, and so forth? And what if instead of this conversation of thinking that we can fix it with a productivity hack or hiring more people or getting into a point where, like, maybe with our spiritual practice, we're doing the wrong thing, so we can't fully commit to it, we can't fully show up to it? What if instead this conversation goes so much deeper, and instead what we actually need to start looking at is our energy rhythms? So that's what we're going to talk about on this week's episode of Awaken and Manifest Your Best Life. Let's dive in. I really want to talk about what has secretly been changing the game for me when it comes to knowing yourself better and getting rid of burnout before it even starts. So this is something that's been happening, I would say, over the past year or so. I've been learning how to get better at this and learning it as a form of energy management. Now, if you don't know me, before we dive in, I am Ashley from theawakenstate.net, creator and founder of The Awakened State. I love to talk on all things related to Kundalini, energy healing, manifestation, mindset work, and especially strengthening your intuition. Now, it's been a little bit, but here's the thing. We're starting to move back into episodes of the podcast. Yay! Today, I wanted to really hone in more on what's been happening behind the scenes. Like, what are some things that I've been working through? What are some things that I can help you with going forward? And most of all, kind of play in a new edge here of looking at energy management from the lens of our rhythms. Because here, at the end of the day, let's think about it. If you are feeling like you have a hard time showing up, you are overwhelmed, you are struggling, you are having this capacity of like mental load that is very common as we get older. And instead, there's this feeling and sensation of where you're energetically sensitive, and maybe you're an empath, you're a highly sensitive person, you're spiritually awakening, you're going through the Kundalini syndromes, and all of this stuff is coming at you. Well, one of the things that we're not thinking about behind the scenes is the reason why we're feeling drained, we're feeling overwhelmed, is because we're going against our own selves. We're going against our spiritual alignment. And at the end of the day, when we think about these things as self-identifiers of highly sensitive person, someone with ADHD, all of these diagnoses, a lot of it can be traced back to how we understand our energy. And, don't quote me on this, but a lot of these self-identifiers can be traced back to not knowing how our intuition works, how our energy body works, and understanding our own cyclical rhythms. And because at the end of the day, male or female, we are cyclical beings. And especially as a female, that's emphasized even more so in our menstrual cycle. But even for men, we have our own particular way that we like to function. And I think it's really powerful to touch on this because a lot of the times, we have that wounded masculine and feminine energy going on. And we also have different areas of our lives where we might realize that, hey, I'm having a really hard time showing up, and I'm having a really hard time being productive, and I'm having a really hard time with managing my time. And a lot of these things, like, we think that it might be just, something on the surface level that we can immediately fix. But what we're not thinking about is we're not conceptualizing our energy and how we have certain rhythms throughout the day and throughout how we personally operate with our intuition, and most importantly, understanding ourselves better through our personality. And I think one of those things that is just kind of hidden behind the scenes is we are ignoring our natural rhythms. And this is what behind the scenes leads to burnout. This is what actually can lead to burnout, because if you're going against yourself, you're going against your own sense of personal alignment. And that personal alignment piece is a huge missing factor for so many people, because at the end of the day, our alignment is our path of least resistance, okay? Repeat after me. If you're new here, spiritual alignment is the pathway of least resistance. So if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're going against yourself, if you feel like it's like trudging up a hill, if you feel like you're taking like the hard path all the time, all of these are energetic signs and intuitive nudges coming up saying, hey, this isn't the right way. This is misaligned. And what you'll notice is when you start to become aware of those sensations, it becomes so much easier to understand yourself, because what's happening behind the scenes is you're starting to notice that actually this is a moment where I have to realize that I'm fighting against myself. And so this is why most people get stuck. This is why we really get drained and overwhelmed, and we get stuck in our head about things. So the reason why most people get stuck or drained or overwhelmed is they don't know their type. They're overusing the masculine energy instead of their feminine energy. They're not knowing their empath type and how to understand how their personal intuition works. They're not knowing their chronotype and understanding how their biorhythms actually work behind the scenes. They're not understanding their personal natural rhythms of how their energy actually operates. All of these things are happening behind the scenes, and they might be influencing you. So I want to dive into exactly each one and discover only the four types that are really important to look out for, to start breaking it down for you so that you can start to realize what is happening behind the scenes that maybe I need to work through. Then I'm going to share with you some really awesome tips on how to get started. Okay, so let's dive in. So to break this down almost into a beautiful kind of like framework. So basically, what we want to start here is with the first one. The first one is knowing your chronotype. Now, if you're not familiar with a chronotype is basically understanding your sleep patterns and understanding the way that you show up, what is your most highest creative peak and your highest level of energy. Now, a lot of the times when you look at your chronotype, it will reveal to you when you have the highest amount of energy possible. And knowing this can help figure out what is your best routine, how to schedule your day if you can, and when is the best opportunity to work and do productivity and high creative tasks, for example. And also it can reveal to you when is the best time for you to schedule social events and so forth. So what you'll find here is with a chronotype, you might have the bear, the dolphin, the wolf, the lion. Okay, so there's specifically 4 different types. There's the dolphin, the bear, the lion, and the wolf. And each one has a different sleep pattern. So for example, I'm not going to go into all of them to keep our time tight, but to understand differently the bear versus the wolf, for example. The bear is an early riser and loves to follow the cycles of the sun. So go to bed when it gets dark out, wake with the sun. Whereas the wolf type is literally more productive in the evening and the afternoon hours. So for them, doing things early in the morning or early in the day is really, really hard for them because their energy naturally peaks late in the afternoon all the way into the evening hours. So for you, it might be really powerful to discover here, how does my energy operate? Do I notice that I have huge creative surges and peaks? Or do I notice that I need to literally be with the sun and the moon, where I need to rise with the sun and go to bed with the moon, and so forth? So you can see here how your chronotype can show you a lot about how your specific rhythm works with your sleep patterns. Now, the second one is to look at your empath type. Now, this is something that I've been exploring a lot, and I even created a quiz on it called the empath type quiz. So you can check that out at the link in the description. But what I want to tell you here is with the empath type, you can start to realize that you have a very strong intuitive ability. We all do at our core. And especially if you are a highly sensitive, spiritually awakening, highly sensitive person and so forth, you have one. And your strongest one will reveal to you what is your strongest intuitive ability that you have in your life and how you can start to utilize this to your personal advantage. Why is this important? Knowing your intuition better can help you drastically stop fighting against yourself. It can teach you how to show up easier. It can teach you what you naturally are good at. What is your natural intuitive strengths? And this can reveal to you maybe, your best creative outlet or how to show up better in your daily routine and so forth. And maybe your own projects, for example. And so knowing your empath type will also reveal to you how you can start to work with your energy in a better capacity than feeling like you're all over the place, overwhelmed, scared of your intuition, not really sure what's happening, and being kind of in this frantic, almost dysregulated place where we're not really sure how to understand or harness our intuition correctly. Because at the end of the day, the more we start to know our intuition better, we can start to utilize that in our daily lives to help us heal, help us with better solutions, help us to problem solve, and so forth. Our intuition is one of the best tools in our spiritual toolbox, and a lot of people underuse it because they don't know their empath type. They don't know what specific intuitive ability they actually have and how they can start to hone in on it better and start to use it and strengthen it like a muscle in their daily life. So if you are interested in learning more about that, I will leave the quiz link below for you. And we will start to move on to the next one. And that is human design. Human design has been one of those things where I don't fully utilize it fully in my life, but I feel like it's good to know as a concept. So let me explain that. I'm not using human design to chronically organize my productivity and all of the things. Some people go really, really hard and deep into it. I don't really do that. That's not really my expertise. That's not really where I'm going here. But I do think it is powerful to know the very basis of it, which is your profile and your emotional authority or your authority. And most of all, knowing how your specific energy runs. So do I believe personally that it's similar to the chakra system and that they kind of screwed up the chakras when they designed the whole human design thing? That's a story for another day. But I think there is some huge merit when it comes to knowing your human design because I've definitely seen it work. So when you know your human design type, there's a quiz you can take. It's online at all sorts of places. I'll leave a link down below. And you can understand your human design type by looking at how your energy works and through your energy centers. And so they kind of enhance the chakra system to include multiple centers, such as the G center and so forth, and all of these different ways of looking at how our energy operates behind the scenes. So for example, you could be a generator, a manifestor, a reflector, and so forth. And so this can also help reveal to you how you best move through life. So for example, I'm a manifestor. So there comes a certain point where I run in sprint cycles and then I need to rest. And if I don't honor the rest cycle, it will show up as burnout 9 times out of 10. But whereas I live in a house of generators and manifesting generators, everybody around me is going at full speed. And there are moments where I just need to stop and chill and allow myself the time to rest, because if I don't allow myself that time to rest, I notice I will easily get burnt out or have no creative fuel, so to speak. And what I notice if I don't honor the rest cycle, it often always always bites me in the face because it's such a moment of recharge for me. It's a moment to vision, to plan, to allow the creative downloads to come and so forth. Understanding your specific type of human design can help you figure out, again, how to show up easier. Now, the next one we want to talk about is one of my personal favorites, and it's gaining a lot more popularity, is learning to balance masculine and feminine energy. Now, a lot of times there's so much misinformation out there when it comes to knowing masculine and feminine energy. I just want to clear it up right off the bat and say the main component that we need to hear, not about gender, passive and active energy. It's about passive and active energy, okay? Passive and active energy. That's what we're talking about. Masculine energy is termed of active energy, where we're putting a lot of doing, we're doing things, we're in that taking action stance, we're moving forward, we're making shit happen, we're getting it done. It's all externally focused, whereas feminine energy is receptive energy. It's passive. It's I'm going to listen to my intuition. I'm going to step back into my beingness and recharge. I'm going to allow myself to slow down to hear the messages before I take action. And so you'll find here that a lot of times if you don't understand your masculine and feminine energy and what's going on behind the scenes, and you start to kind of bring more awareness to this part of yourself, you begin to see ways that you might be overdoing it versus underdoing it. So for example, if on the opposite spectrum, if you find yourself getting stuck down, rabbit holes where you're constantly overthinking and you always are doing the vision boards and the visualizations and you're getting caught up in the dreaming phase and you're really kind of in your head about things and, you're doing all of the head work, but you're not taking action. You're not doing anything differently. You're not showing up. You're not actually moving forward on anything you say you're going to do. That energy is wounded masculine energy because you are too much in the feminine and not enough in the masculine. Now, on the opposite spectrum, if you have wounded masculine energy, you're overdoing it to the point of burnout. You're not honoring your alignment and your energy rhythms at all. You're often probably overtaking action to the point where you are pushing against your own capacity and you're finding yourself either getting sick, burning out, slowing down, really kind of mentally unhinged or mentally overloaded and so forth. And because of that, you need actually more feminine energy, so you have more wounded feminine to work through. And to recognize that because of that, you need to actually slow down. And it's funny how it's the opposite, because you think like, if it's wounded masculine, then I need more. And it's like, it's kind of backwards. And so when you look at it in that way, you can see here how these four components can really hold a ton of just an overall picture, like a foundation of understanding our energy rhythms better. And the reason why I say these specifically is because you can start to see here how all of them kind of influence how you're showing up. Now, if I were to just give you an example here, so for example, here's one of my own things. So my chronotype is a wolf. I am a manifester. My highest intuitive ability is clairvoyance and claircognizance. And often I am an energy reader. So I'm very, very visual. And I will continue to say this so that we all know. And when it comes to balancing masculine and feminine energy, I often have had to work on wounded feminine energy. I often overdo it, and I need to consciously work on balancing out with the feminine. And it's a society-based thing, really. So it's more common to have wounded feminine. And when you look at it in this way, the number one thing we need to look at here is if I have a wolf chronotype, I actually do terrible in mornings. I do my best work, and don't hate me for this, past 12. And I often do my best downloads in the evening at really random hours into the evening. and I've been starting to honor that more. I'm an energy reader, so I function really best with visuals, and I've been working on how to strengthen that vessel a lot easier by listening to the visions as they come forth and using that in my content or my healing work and so forth. And then for understanding my human design as a manifester, I think honoring my rest cycles has been life-changing because it allows me to slow down and heal that divine feminine aspect that I'm often working through. So here you can see like how your type might be totally different. Like you might be a bear with clear audience, and your human design type is a manifesting generator, and we have a totally different conversation going on here because you probably need to work more on the feminine energy versus the masculine energy and so forth. This is just another example. So the main point I'm getting at here is understanding these particular energy rhythms is a beautiful way to manage your energy and look at your energy hygiene from a totally different standpoint than analyzing limited beliefs or working in the chakra system even. And I think it's really fascinating to talk about because if you are someone who's struggling more with these like surface level things of like feeling overwhelmed, or I don't even want to say surface level, it's more like emotional and mental like demand, that mental load. If you're struggling with those elements of being highly sensitive, the main point I'm getting at here is you might not realize that this is going on behind the scenes, and this is a big reason why you're having a hard time showing up. And I think when we look at it in this regard, it's so much easier to manage how we can show up easier by honoring our strengths. So if you would like a crash course on this, I highly recommend taking the time to do my empath type quiz so it can reveal to you your strongest intuitive ability and so forth. I also recommend looking into your chronotype and your human design for sure. And if you need even more help with masculine and feminine energy, I highly recommend my personal course called Divine Feminine Energy, literally. And it's Awakening the Divine Feminine. That's a really great mini course on understanding how to balance your masculine and feminine energy. It is located in the shop. And most of all, to wrap this up, I would love to know your own thoughts on which specific type is really speaking to you. I would love to know what have been your own experiences with human design, chronotypes, and knowing your intuition better. Drop it all below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you guys have any more questions at all, because I know I threw a lot at you today, don't hesitate to ask. I love hearing from you. And as always, if you like our videos, please hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.